Hey everybody, I'm Darcy. I am back to kick off a second series of Back to Basics, Skills for Independent Teens. We heard you guys loud and clear. You really liked the first week of videos. Some people said that they found them really helpful. So we are back with a brand new series of all new topics this week. We're going to cover things like credit card do's and don'ts, cleaning the house, and we'll have some more easy recipes for you. And I'm going to start the week off by talking about some car basics. Now, I'm not going to show you things like how to change your oil because I'm a librarian and not a mechanic. But what I am going to talk to you about is some super basic stuff that you might not realize if you've only just begun driving or if you own your first car. And I'm mostly going to talk about things that you should have in your car. A lot of these kind of seem like no-brainers to those of us who've been driving for a really long time, but we kind of forget that somebody had to tell us, hey, you got to put this stuff in your car. So I'm going to start off with just things you should have. Obviously, first is your registration and your proof of insurance. Your car has to be registered with the state. When you pay your car taxes, they will send you a little piece of paper. They will send you a decal that goes on your license plate. That piece of paper, keep it in your glove box. It always needs to be there. If you ever get pulled over or you get in an accident, you're going to have that. The other thing is your proof of insurance. You have to carry liability insurance in the state of South Carolina. If you're tuning in from a different state, your laws might be different where you are. But here you at least have to have enough insurance to cover the damage if you run into somebody else. Try not to do that. But those two pieces of paper, keep them in your glove box. Keep them right where you can find them. A lot of cars come with a little envelope like this that has room inside for your registration, your insurance. It'll also have a slot for your owner's manual, which is the next thing that you really need to keep in your car. Your owner's manual is a big book that looks like this. If you've bought a new car, or usually if you've bought a used car, this will still be in the glove box. This is the answer to everything. This is a really big document. Check in the back. There's an alphabetized index if you can't figure out what section covers the thing that you're trying to look up. It's really easy to use. This will tell you things like how often you have to change the oil in your car, what kind of oil to use. That's different on every manufacturer, every car. You might not realize it, but it's not the same. Your tire pressure will be in there. Your directions for how to change the windshield wipers, an explainer for all the little lights on your dashboard. This will tell you what those mean. That's super handy to know. If you have one of those pop on while you're driving, you might need to take your car to the shop. This will tell you what all that means. If you are driving someone else's car, or if it's a used car that you've just bought and that manual is not in there, you can find it online. Almost every manufacturer now has this available as a PDF on their website. You can usually buy a new one too. They're not terribly expensive if you want to have a paper copy, which I recommend you having. A lot of cars will also come with sort of a quick guide, which is a shorter little guide, and it'll tell you, what do all those lights on your dashboard mean? If this light turns on, what does that mean? Does it mean the engine's messed up? Do I need more oil? Am I out of gas? What? And it'll have other tips like how to program your radio and stuff like that. You really want to have one of those, or at least look it up online and be familiar with where to find it. So all that stuff is stuff that you should keep in your glove box. It should be really easy to hand. Another thing that you probably want to keep track of is your service record. Now, every car manufacturer has a different schedule for when you should perform maintenance on your car. It's not just filling up the gas and changing the oil, unfortunately. Cars require a little bit more maintenance than that. And so you will find a maintenance schedule in that owner's manual, maybe every 10,000, every 15,000 miles, whatever it is for your car. It will tell you the mileage interval, and it'll tell you what work it needs. So that book is going to tell you, when do I need to have my brakes checked? When do I need to have all the fluids checked and replaced in the car? Stuff like that. Now, the car manufacturer will know that, and most mechanics also have that on record, but it's good for you to keep aware as well. So don't just count on someone else to tell you how to take care of your car. Make sure that you're proactive and you're looking up, for my make and model and year, what do I need to be aware of? That's kind of the biggest tip for taking care of a car. They do require some attention. So that stuff that's in your glove box, that'll tell you pretty much everything you need to know. There's a bunch of other stuff that we recommend that you keep in your car. And I have a bunch of that stuff here today. I think the very first thing you want to have is a flashlight or some kind of light. If you get a flat tire, if something happens with your car, it overheats, whatever, and you need to pull over on the side of the road, especially at night, you want to make sure that you have a light. Most people will say a flashlight. I actually keep a lantern because it can sit on the ground. If you're going to be out there trying to change a spare tire, you don't want to have to also hold the flashlight while you're working on it. These are battery operated, so make sure you've got batteries in them. They also usually have some kind of flashing caution light, so you can also set that out just to caution people that your vehicle is pulled over. Of course, you want to have a spare tire kit in your car. Not every car these days comes with a spare tire, so you should check. If you're buying a new car, if you're buying a used car, if you are just borrowing or inheriting a car from a family member, make sure that you know, A, is there a spare tire? And B, where is it? It might be mounted on the back. If you've got an SUV, it might be mounted up underneath. And it might be in your trunk under the cargo area. So just poke around. Your owner's manual will tell you where it is, but it should be pretty obvious once you look around for it. For example, my car did not come with a spare tire kit, so that's something that I purchased separately. A full kit will come with a mounted spare tire. It's a little bit smaller than a regular tire, but it's good enough to get you to a tire ship or a mechanic if something goes wrong. The kit should also come with a jack, a lug wrench, everything that you need to change that tire yourself. So if you're on the freeway somewhere and your tire blows up and you need to put on a spare, you should have everything in the car ready to go. And that flashlight is going to help you too. If it's late at night, if it's dark, whatever. I really recommend knowing how to change the spare yourself. A lot of folks have AAA or some other roadside assistance service. I have that service, but you just never know. Back when I was a teenager and dinosaurs roamed the earth, we didn't have cell phones. So if you were out in the middle of nowhere and you got a flat tire, you could change it yourself. You could walk to the nearest gas station, or you could just sit there until somebody happened along who was willing to help you. So even though now we pretty much always have a smartphone with us, you never know if you're gonna be someplace where you don't have reception, or maybe you just don't want to wait. All those services are really great. They will help you out, but sometimes you've got to wait a while. It kind of depends on what their availability is. So if you don't want to sit in your car on the side of the road for a couple of hours just for somebody else to put your spare tire on for you, figure it out. There are a lot of resources. YouTube is a super great source. You can see people show you how to take it off, how to put the new tire on. Really, you should learn by doing. So I'd say look up on YouTube how to replace a tire, and then set aside an afternoon after school or Saturday or whatever and just go out and do it. Put the car up on the jack, take off your real tire, put the spare on, and then switch them back. I've been driving for more than 20 years. I think I've only had a flat tire once in that whole time, but you never know. And if you've done it before at home when you're not in a panic, you'll feel a lot more confident if it comes time to do it yourself. So again, there's so much great stuff available online these days for car care. Mechanics do all kinds of videos, how-tos, and how to change a spare tire is something you can easily find and learn how to do. It's pretty simple once you've looked at a video and then done it yourself. It seems intimidating, but it's not. Okay, some other stuff that you should have in the car. Speaking of spare tires, keep a can of WD-40 in your car. If you do ever have to change the tire and put on a spare, this would be really helpful for loosening up those nuts. It just makes it go a lot smoother, and honestly, you just never know when WD-40 is going to come in handy. Again, the flashlight, the WD-40. This is something that maybe down here in the low country, you're not going to use very often, but I keep an ice scraper in my car. I live a little bit inland in Charleston, and I actually do get ice on the windshield pretty frequently in the winter, and you can sit in your car on the driveway and run the heat for 15 minutes. But if you're like me, you are running late for work and you don't have time to sit there and wait for it to thaw out. So an ice scraper is super handy. Otherwise you're out there, you know, with your driver's license. That's ridiculous. So an ice scraper is super handy. Some other maintenance stuff that is really good to have in your car: a tire pressure gauge. These are really basic. This one is super cheap. You can get it at any gas station. You just take the little caps off your tire and you pop this end on there, and the pressure will blow out this meter. And this will tell you what your tire pressure is. Now, a lot of modern cars have a tire pressure monitoring system. It has a little light that will pop on if there's something going on with your tires. That's really helpful, but you want to know what to do next. So when you see that light go off, it's a good idea to stop, check your pressure. And almost every car has a sticker inside the driver's side door. On the door frame, you'll see a sticker and it'll tell you what the tire pressure should be for all of your tires. It's a little different for every car. In some cars, the front and back tires will require different pressure. So take a look at that sticker. If that sticker isn't there or it's messed up, you can't read it, again, that's something that is in the owner's manual. And you want to make sure that you're driving with the right pressure in your car tires so they don't blow up on the highway. So the meter is a good thing to have on hand. Know how to fill up your tires with air. Almost every gas station has an air pump. Sometimes they take quarters, sometimes they're free. So it's a good idea to keep a few quarters in your car. You can also buy a pressurized air tank to keep at home if you are really into car care and you want to have something like that on hand. You can use it on your bike too if you ride a bike. Another maintenance thing that is kind of cool to have in your car, I have one of these. This is a code reader. So your car has a computer inside of it, and when your check engine light comes on, it's not just a light that's meaningless. The mechanic can plug in a machine like this or one that's a little bit more complicated, and they can read that code. The computer will tell them what is wrong with your car. You can keep one of these in your glove box. This one's probably about 20 bucks. They're not super expensive. If you have a used car, which I drove an older car for a long time, it's good to have those on hand. It's no replacement for taking your car to a qualified mechanic, but it can give you an idea if you have a recurring issue. It just gives you a little bit of peace of mind so you can see what exactly is going on, what's wrong with your car. It might be an issue that you can fix yourself. For example, my old car used to turn on the check engine light all the time, and the only problem was that there was something wrong with the gas cap lid. It was loose all the time. That's super basic. You don't have to pay a mechanic to fix something like that if you have the tools to diagnose it. So something you might want to look into. Some other maintenance kind of stuff that you probably want to have in your car: jumper cables. These are the old school jumper cables. They're big, they're pretty bulky. These require another person to help you jumpstart your car. If your car dies and won't start up for some reason, a lot of times it'll just be the battery. Your battery could be going bad. You could do something silly like I've done before and leave the overhead map light on overnight, and then your car won't start up the next morning. If you have these cables, what you do is you hook your car battery up to the battery on another car, and that person starts their car, and it provides you a jump. It gives you some electricity to get your car started. And then once your car starts, your battery will charge everything back up. Again, these are pretty bulky. It also requires you to have somebody nearby who can help you. Something a little bit newer that you might want to look into keeping in your car is an emergency kit like this. This comes with a jump starter. So you do not necessarily need to find someone who can jumpstart your car for you if you have this kit. It has a very cool lithium battery. It has cables just like those ones, except this one plugs into this battery, hooks onto your car battery, and you can start it from here. This provides plenty of power to get your car going. This whole kit is a little expensive, but just this by itself with the cables is probably $50, $75. It's worth having on hand. It's really easy to use. It comes with instructions, of course, but it has a button right there that tells you what to do. This kit also comes with a few other things. This one has an emergency air pump for your tire. So it's got a gauge, and it has the air cable that comes out and hooks onto your tire. You never know if you have a slow leak and you're just trying to get someplace before you can get it fixed. That might be helpful. This kit also came with phone chargers, which is another thing that you really should keep in the car, especially if you're relying on your cell phone in the case of an emergency. Again, back in the day, if we had an emergency, we just had to figure out how to deal with it. Nowadays, thankfully, we've all got smartphones. We almost always are someplace with service, but it doesn't do you a lot of good if your phone's dead. So that's something you definitely want to keep in the car. Some other stuff you might want kind of depends on what your lifestyle is like, what kind of driving you do. Now, I do a lot of driving up in the mountains in the upstate and in North Carolina. So I always keep some things in my car in case my car breaks down while I'm someplace sort of inaccessible. I keep an emergency blanket in the car. I keep some non-perishable food items. I always keep water in the car. I have some reflective road triangles. You can put those out if your car breaks down and you're in the mountains. You can put those out if you're just getting out to change a flat. Those are super helpful to have. That really depends on if you're only driving to and from school, if you're only going to be in town, you don't necessarily need to keep all that kind of stuff in your car, especially if you've got a smaller car. But think about where you'll be going in your car, what kind of driving you do. Are you going to be on isolated back roads? And in that case, think about, well, what would happen if your car broke down and it was going to be a few hours before you could get help or you could go someplace? Think about what you'd want to have in your car. Some other things kind of depend on if you are a pet person. If you have a dog who rides in your car, I think a lot of people let their dogs ride loose in the car, but that can be just as dangerous for a dog to be loose in the car as for a person. So you and I would always wear our seatbelts in the car in case we get in some kind of accident. But a lot of folks kind of let their dogs chill out in the back seat, in the front seat, without any kind of restraint. And I really don't recommend that. I don't think that's a great idea. Experts don't think it's super safe. There's a few things you can do. You can get a harness like this one, fits on your dog this way, and the seatbelt actually loops through here. So if you got in an accident, your dog would be restrained. So one of the worst ways that people get hurt in car accidents is when they're not wearing seatbelts and they are either thrown around inside the car or actually ejected out of the car. That can be one of the worst things that happens in an accident. And we're aware of that for ourselves, but a lot of times we don't think about our pets who are in the car. So it's just as important to keep your dog restrained if you've got him riding in the car. My dog rides in a dog crate in the car. I have room in my cargo area for that. It gives her a little bit more space to sit up or lie down. She's a little more comfortable, but she's also restrained if I get into an accident. The other thing that people don't really think about when it comes to their dogs is if you have to pull over for any reason, if you get a flat, you get in just a little fender bender, it doesn't have to be a major accident, but if you get out of the car on the side of the road, sometimes your dog will get spooked, and you don't want your dog to get out in traffic and run away. So even if you really don't think you're ever going to get in a bad accident, you still want your dog to be safe in the car, or your other pet, your chameleon. I don't know, get him a seatbelt too. Safety first. Just a couple other kind of basic car things. I polled a bunch of people when I was getting ready for this video and said, what are the things that we treat like no-brainers, but that you didn't know when you first started driving? The number one thing people told me was when you look at the gas light in your dashboard and that little gasoline light that comes on when you're running out of fuel, it has a little arrow in most cars that points toward the side of the car where the gas can is. People are just delighted by this fact. So if you're driving somebody else's car for whatever reason, you have to get gas and you don't know what side the gas door is on, look at the little arrow on the light. People really loved that tip. A couple other super basic car things that people don't necessarily think of. You need to know how often the oil in your car has to get changed. Now, an oil change place is going to put that sticker up in the windshield, and that will tell you the date or mileage that you should get your next oil change. But you should really be aware too. Every car is a little bit different. Some manufacturers recommend 5,000 miles between oil changes. Some you can go longer, some are shorter. It really depends on your car, what kind of oil it takes. So make sure that you're aware of that. It's the kind of thing you can look up in your owner's manual. Or again, you can just usually Google it with the year, make, and model of your car, and you'll find that information pretty easily. That's probably the number one maintenance thing that you need to keep an eye on because it is the thing that comes up most frequently. But you should also be cognizant of when will I need the brakes fixed or replaced on this car? When will I need fluids flushed? That's all the kind of stuff that you don't really think about day to day when you're driving, but if you keep that up, then your car will last a lot longer. If you don't do that maintenance regularly, then you start to have car trouble a lot earlier, and the life of the car just doesn't last as long. It's a mechanical item. It breaks down over time. Especially down here with the hot weather, a lot of like rubber tubing can become corrupted and stuff like that. So you really want to make sure that you're taking your car for the regular maintenance. It's kind of a pain, it costs money, but it saves you money in the long run if you're taking care of your car. So just some other super basic tips for brand new drivers. When you get in a car for the first time, make sure that you're comfortable. Take the time to adjust the seat. Before you turn the car on, see if you can reach the pedals comfortably. Not just, oh, okay, I can reach them, but sit there the way that you'll be sitting when you're driving and make sure you're comfortable. Make sure that your mirrors are adjusted. A lot of people don't realize that you can adjust the height of the steering wheel. If you reach forward under the steering wheel, there's usually a lever or a button, and you can raise that up or down. Make sure that you can see. Make sure you can check your blind spots easily. Adjust your seatbelt. Usually there's another lever here that goes up and down, and it adjusts the height of where your shoulder belt falls. If you are uncomfortable when you're driving, you're going to be fidgeting a lot. It just really increases the likelihood that you'll be distracted when you're driving, and that increases the likelihood that you'll get into an accident. These have been some super basic tips. This is stuff that you might not necessarily learn in driver's ed, or you might not have to take driver's ed where you live. So you might just have a parent who is doing their best to teach you how to drive, or some other adult in your life. So I hope this stuff has been helpful. You've got to keep the maintenance stuff. You've got to keep the registration and insurance in your car. The other stuff you really need to double check for are the spare tire kit and some way to jumpstart your car. The rest of that stuff is just tips, but I find that you don't think you're going to need that stuff until the day comes when you're stranded on the side of the road and you really wish that you had double checked before you got out there. So check today before you drive your car for the next time. Go through it and make sure that you've got all this stuff. And it's just going to make your life a little bit easier as a new driver or a new car owner. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. I hope that you will tune in for the rest of the week. There's going to be a lot more stuff coming up from some other CCPL librarians and teen staffers. And we look forward to seeing you. Have a good one, guys. Bye.